The Thomas Code, Chapter 6. Dividing by two. 4.18 A man said to him, "Speak to my brothers that they may divide my father's possessions with me." He said to him, "O man, who made me a divider?" He turned to his disciples. He said to them, "Truly do I exist as one who divides?" Lunas 72. There are two more sayings which allude to Jesus' role in the Thomas Code as the two twos. The first of these, 4.18, is in a significant position. It is the last saying in the fourth 18 and also the last in the middle 36. In this saying, a man asks Jesus to intercede with his brothers to divide his father's possessions. Ostensibly, we have a situation where Jesus is being asked to act as executor, to divide up the property of a deceived person among his sons. It was common for teachers, that is rabbis, to be asked to do this, so the man's request is not unreasonable. Yet Jesus refuses him. Jesus is teaching the abandonment of personal property in favor of the kingdom of God. He has not come to act as an executor. So is the saying a memory of a real event, something that actually happened to Jesus. There are a number of clues in the saying that something is going on below the surface. First, Jesus' reply does not make sense under the interpretation of refusing the role of executor. If the purpose of the saying was that the followers of Jesus should abandon their property, then why does Jesus not say this? His reply should be something like, "Give your father's possessions to the poor and seek the riches of the kingdom God." Instead, he makes an obscure statement about not being a divider. And if the meaning of the saying is that Jesus was refusing the post of executor, it would be curiously anemic. Why would anyone even remember such a trivial event? Some have seen this saying as a rare expression of humor in the early Jesus movement. Jesus does not reply with a straightforward answer but asks a question. "O man who made me a divider?" He then turns to his disciples and repeats the question to them. "Truly do I exist as one who divides?" This is a literal translation. It will more normally be translated as "I am not a divider." Am I? The key to the saying is the idea of division. This is an obvious play on words. Anyone who had studied the Gospel of Thomas would know that Jesus comes to make whole the divisions within a person. In 2.3, Thomas 22, Jesus tells his disciples how to enter into the kingdom. When you make the two one, and when you make the inside as the outside, and the outside as the inside, and the upper side as the lower side, and when you make the male and the female into a single one, that the male be not male, nor the female female. We've seen how this is an allusion to returning to the spiritual state of the first creation. The separation of Eve from Adam is undone by making the two one, and the male and the female into a single one, that the male be not male, nor the female female. Jesus has come to repair a division, and that division is spiritual. It is not just in the Gospel of Thomas that we find this concept. Jesus' reply to the man's question is very close to something that Paul writes in 1 Corinthians. Is Christ divided? Saying 4.18 plays with the different meanings of division. A divider is an executor, and also one who separates, whereas Jesus has come to make whole. Yet, we have come across another meaning for divisions. In Thomas 16, it is applied to the gospel as a whole, the way the gospel is divided into sections, and the way the individual sayings are divided against each other. The same Coptic word is used for divisions in Thomas 16 and Thomas 72. So we have a third, hidden level of meaning to the saying. This third level shows another dimension to Jesus' irony. Jesus really is a divider. In Thomas 16, he says that he has come to cast divisions upon the world, meaning the divided gospel of Thomas. Links to the Salome saying 4.6. Let us look at the saying again. A man talks about dividing our father's possessions. The reference to our father should alert us here. Does this really mean the Father, God? There is another saying in which Jesus shares in the things of the Father. This is saying 4.6, Thomas 61. When Jesus replies to Salome's question asking who he is, I am he who is from that which is equal. To me was given of the things of my Father. The saying continues, Therefore I say, when he should be equal, he will be filled with light. But when he should be divided, he will be filled with darkness. To be equal is good, but to be divided is bad. So there are similarities between 4.6 and 4.18. Both have the concept of the Father's possessions. In 4.6, Jesus has the things of the Father, whereas in 4.18 the man wants his brothers to share the Father's possessions. Both have the concept of division. In 4.6, division leads to darkness, whereas being equal is to be filled with light, with Jesus coming from that which is equal. In 4.18, Jesus asks, ironically, if he is a divider. These two sayings are linked. They are in the same 18, with saying 4.6 the last of the first 6 and 4.18 being the last of the third 6. But if the sayings are linked, then the Father in 4.18 is actually God. Division in the Thomas Code. So how does this relate to the structure? In the formula, the Father is represented by the 3 threes, yet they are divided up by the 2 twos, which are equal, being placed each side of the central 3. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. The twos represent Jesus. So Jesus is indeed a divider. His number 2 divides up the threes twice. There is an allusion in 4.18 to this twofold division because Jesus asked whether he is a divider twice. This is the only time in the Gospel that Jesus repeats a question in this way, and it is this that gives the suggestion of humor. We can now see why, because Jesus is a twofold divider in the formula. In 4.18, Jesus has come from that which is equal, and as saying 4.6 tells us shares the possessions of the Father. To be equal implies that 2 things are the same. It implies twinship and the number 2, the number that represents Jesus. A man and his brothers want to share in the possessions of their Father, but Jesus refuses. If the Father is God, then only Jesus is the valid Son, the only one who shares in what belongs to the Father. Jesus then replies with a cryptic reply that both affirms that he has not come to divide, and is also an allusion to the structure of the gospel. Jesus divides the Thomas Code because his 2 split up the Father's 3s. So who is the man and his brothers? They believe they are entitled to share in the Father's possessions, so they must be divine beings. The early Jesus movement believed that the earth was under the control of evil powers. These powers were not the Romans, although the powers controlled the Roman authorities. They were the fallen angels, the sons of God. It is the sons of God who attempt to share the Father's possessions, but there is only one true Son of God, and that is Jesus, the wood, the stone, and the all. The Greek version of 2.11 includes the sub-saying about the stone and timber, which is found in 5.4, Thomas 77. In the Coptic, in Appendix 2, I suggest that this was because it replaced the line, "Where there are 2, I am there." Whoever altered 2.11 in the Greek must have believed that the stone and timber related to the 2. The full Coptic version of 5.4 is, 5.4 Jesus said, I am the light that is over them all. I am the Olivet. The Olivet came out of me, and the Olivet bursts up to me. Burst a timber, I am there. Raise up the stone, and you shall find me there. Poem 77. There is another saying featuring wood and stone, and that is one of the key sayings about the Thomas Code, 1.18. In this saying we have both stones that minister in 5 trees in paradise. We have seen that the stones refer to the central triplet, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. If we raise it out of the sequence, then Jesus is there in the form of the 2 twos. 2, 3, 2. Now, suppose we equate the timber with the 5 trees, which are the 5 factors. we again find the two twos embedded within the timber. 3, 2, 3, 2, 3. Note how we have to burst or split the timber open to find the twos because they are not on the outside, at the beginning or end. So we can see the mysterious phrase concerning the timber and stone as a reference to the two twos. If so, then whoever moved this to 2.11 was quite right in believing that it related to where there are two I am there. This leaves the first part of the saying. Jesus said, I am the light that is over them all. I am the all of it. The all of it came out of me, and the all of it bursts up to me. A conventional explanation might see this as related to Gnosticism. The all is the totality of everything. So Jesus is the light over the whole of creation, and it came out of him and attempts to burst up or reach up to him. But there is a problem with this. The totality should come out of the Father, not the Son. It is God who created everything. With the Thomas Code, we get a very different interpretation of the all of it. The clue is in the very first saying 1.1. We will see that this keystone saying alludes to the 336s, but it ends with another phrase, and he will become king over the all of it. It is the same phrase as we find in 5.4. As the keystone saying first covers the 36s, the all of it must be the totality of the gospel, the full 108 sayings. So the all of it is the gospel of Thomas. Let us now look at 5.4 again, this interpretation. I am the light that is over them all. Jesus is the light that is within the sayings. This is quite literal in sayings such as 2.5, Thomas 24. There is light within a man of light, and he becomes light to the whole world. It is Jesus who is this light, as he is also in the Gospel of John. I am the all of it. Jesus is the whole gospel. The sayings are the stream that Jesus has measured out. As saying 6.15, Thomas 108, says, Whoever drinks from my mouth shall become like me. I myself will become like me. Amos, meaning twin, is a reference to the twin twos in the Thomas Code. So the very name, the gospel of the twin, refers to Jesus. All of it came out of me. The sayings with their Jesus says statements have literally come out of Jesus. And the all of it bursts up to me. The word for burst can mean to reach up or attain. The same word is used for bursting open the timber and also, in saying 3.10, Thomas 47, for the wineskins that are burst or split when filled with new wine. The gospel reaches up to Jesus because it tells the disciples how to attain to Jesus. With this explanation, we can see the unity of 5.4. It starts with the summary that Jesus is present in the gospel as its light. The gospel is, in fact, Jesus is, it has come from him, and the sayings burst up to him. The saying then alludes to Jesus being the twos in the Thomas Code, found if you lift out the stone, the central triplet, or if you burst open the wood, the whole code. Thomas the twin. There is a link between the two twos in the very name of the gospel. Thomas is not a real name, but the Aramaic word for twin. Later, Thomas became associated with Judas, not the Iscariot, but the brother of Jesus, who had the same name. However, there is no evidence that Judas and Thomas were conflated into one person until the late 2nd century. They are different people in both the Gospel of Luke and especially in the Gospel of John, where Thomas is more prominent than in the other Gospels and is clearly not the same person as Judas. The Coptic version of Thomas actually has the word for twin twice. It is attributed to Didymus Judas Thomas, but Didymus means twin in Greek. We cannot be sure about the name on the Greek papyrus fragments, because the first word falls on a missing section. It is normally recreated as Judas Thomas, but could equally be Didymus Thomas. Could it be that the very name of the gospel reflects the formula, and that the gospel was originally attributed to the twin? If so, this must be an allusion to the two twos in the Thomas Code. Normally, the Gospel is seen as being named after the disciple Thomas, but I have argued that it is the other way around, and that the disciple was created after the Gospel. The author of Mark was looking for names for the group called the 12, and knowing that there was a Gospel attributed to Thomas, thought there must be a disciple of the name. Apart from the mere listing of his name, Thomas does not feature any further in Mark, Matthew, or Luke. So it seems that the earliest Gospel writers knew no stories about him,